You may not see them, but they're there. The invisible people in our communities. They include our homeless brothers and sisters and those who are homebound, the elderly, chronically ill, those with mental illness, and others living on what is often referred to as the edge of society. Invisible people often live a life of isolation with few or no ties to family. When help is needed, a call to 911 is the only option they believe they have, whether it's a true emergency or not. The Atlanta suburb of Alpharetta, Georgia, where I live, of course, has its invisible people. But we also have a champion and an innovative program to serve this vulnerable population. It's called My Watch Alpharetta, as in not on my watch. A program of the Alpharetta Department of Public Safety. My Watch is a paramedicine program that helps bridge the gap to serve those living on the edge of our community. These community paramedicine programs are gaining ground throughout the U.S. in rural areas, cities, and suburbs, each one unique to the communities they serve. The Uncommon Philanthropist had a chance to do a ride-along with the champion and leader of the My Watch Alpharetta program, David Allen. Here's more from our time together. Let go.
So my name is David Allen, and I'm the community paramedic for the City of Alpharetta as part of the program from our fire department. And the way we've learned to describe it is that there are people who need 911 and there are people who need social work. And there was a fine line between the two, and but over time that line has become a gap, and we keep people from falling through that gap with community paramedicine. So an example would be those that are food insecure, housing insecure, maybe they are in cognitive decline and they have stayed at home or alone too long. And now things are beginning to break down around them. And so that's not 911, and it may not qualify for social work, but they need something. And that's where we step in and do a more in-depth assessment of their entire situation and then begin to figure out solutions.
So David, tell me about this facility.
Dogwood Square, look at how many units there are. There's probably, I guess, maybe a little over 100 units. This is subsidized senior housing.
So it's independent living.
Yes, independent living. Thank you for saying that. That's it's an apartment. You're completely on your own.
Okay. And does this place stay full pretty much all the time?
Yes. They have a waiting list, and occasionally they have to just shut the waiting list down. If you're around me for any length of time, you hear me say that everybody needs a champion.
And we just met a community champion in there.
Yes.
Let's talk about her and how she serves our community.
So Cantrell Maddox is the property manager here at Dogwood Square, and we have worked hand in glove to help out the residents that are here, those that are in need, those that need a champion, and so many of them are proud, I suppose, where they don't really want to ask for help, even though they know that they need it. And so there's that working with her and really getting an understanding of what's going to serve them the best. Those are buddy bags. They're right there at the Alpharetta Methodist Church at the Bagley House, and they make thousands of these buddy bags, and they're for kids anywhere from, and they kind of tweak or tailor them, 2 years old to 12 plus. Has a teddy bear in it. It has some little books and stuff like that, coloring books or whatever. And they have given out over 2,100 of them over Georgia. So people that maybe have gone through a traumatic event, and the kids just need something. And there's a blanket in there. There's a teddy bear, a homemade teddy bear in there, and they just need something to hold on to for that moment. And so we were just amazed that they are able to distribute so widely. And
The whole homeless situation is just so complex.
it is. And I would imagine this time of year it's extra complex because they're fighting against the cold. I noticed that a lot of these encampments are near a stream, and so they, can wash their clothes in the stream or utilize that water when they need to.
And I think people might be surprised to know that Alpharetta has these homeless encampments because you're not really that much aware of a homeless situation.
Correct.
Just living in the community. Has the homeless population grown because of the cost of housing lately, or?
Honestly, until my watch Alpharetta was established, I didn't know there were as many homeless as there are. And so I'm not sure how it has evolved over time. I do know I went to Savannah and rode with them and their behavioral health unit, Chatham County Fire, and theirs is way more organized. They may have 30 or 50 people in a site, in a homeless encampment, where there's a hierarchy and the whole thing. What we see here is mostly 2, 3, 4 people at the most.
So I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true, but I'm sure you can correct me, that when you're homeless, you don't have an address. So it makes it difficult to register with places like North Fulton Community Charities.
Yes.
They can't validate that you're a member of this. Is that correct? And is there a workaround for that?
They have been very cooperative, very helpful with, if I come in and say I've got this person, here's their name, they're homeless, they will work with me and set up an account for them. And if they show up, they'll get it. Or if I show up because they can't get down there to North Fulton Community Charities, they'll give me the food and I'll take it to them. This encampment has been there way longer than these two guys have, so people move in, people move out. I spent 16 years at Grady, and so there's something that I'm going to learn at Grady over that amount of time that I probably wouldn't have learned if this is all that I was ever exposed to. I didn't originate this. This came from a community paramedic down in Colquitt County, but as EMS, we treat them and leave them. We may be with them 8-10 minutes or so, but as a community paramedic, we love them and keep them.
Aww.
And so that's a way to think about it. But the reality is that most of the folks that we'll take on, we'll be with them for a while. Usually what happens is 911, something in their life breaks down and they end up calling 911. That's usually how we get involved. In this case, with Dogwood Square, they knew that we had been serving their residents, and they called us directly and said, hey, we have this situation with this retired Marine colonel, and can you come and help him? But when we get citizens that are now involved in calling about either from the facility or as a neighbor,
yes,
then that's huge.
That's good word of mouth.
It's good word of mouth.
Let's talk about community paramedicine, because I think people are not really familiar with that term. So please tell us what that's all about.
Sure. So there's a couple of things to know about community paramedicine. That it is you have to first be a paramedic, and then you have to be a paramedic that has enough experience that you can take a test that begins to address things that you're not taught necessarily in a book, but only experience will teach you. So if you haven't had, I forgot what the minimum amount of experience, years of experience it is, but they don't even want you to take the test. So when my chief told me about this opportunity to get certified as a community paramedic, It was a challenge, but I loved it, and it just feels like a natural progression from what I've experienced over time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let's talk about how the City of Alpharetta and the community paramedicine program came to be.
Sure. During COVID, people were so much more isolated, and what we noticed is that people were being, for lack of a better word, forgotten to death. We'd find people that maybe were diabetic. Normally they would have gone to work, or they would have had friends that were checking on them, but they hadn't. We'd get a call that they hadn't heard from them for a while, and so that would go as a 911 call. We'd go do a wellness check. No one would answer. We'd have to breach their home, like knock down the door or break a window to get in, and we'd find that they had passed away. Usually from something related to their chronic medical illness, or maybe they had a fall and they were elderly, had a fall, and no one had come to check on them. So as we were sitting around and we were talking about this, we were just all very saddened by it, and I thought to myself, not again on my watch. And so that's how we got the name.
My watch.
Mm-hmm. What we were able to find is that everybody doesn't need 911, but they do need something. So there's the way I describe it is that there's 911, which is an actual life-threatening emergency, and there's social work, it's something that's more sustainable. But there's a thin line. Well, it used to be a thin line. Now it's a big crack, and people are falling through those cracks. We have what I call $1 million hoarders, people who are living in homes that are highly valued, but maybe they're on a limited income, and maybe they have some mental health things going on, and we get there and we see that now their house is completely full from hoarding situations. That makes it hazardous for them, but it also makes it hazardous for us. We also may get activated on people that are suddenly falling more. Maybe they have a new onset Parkinson's or some other comorbidity that is preventing them from just being able to age in place safely, or don't come out as a life-threatening emergency, but there is a need there, and so that's where community paramedicine comes in.
Very good. So tell me about the populations that you serve through the program.
So it's quite a diverse population. The City of Alpharetta, I believe, is at about 50,000 people now, and it ranges from the very wealthy to the homeless. And even the homeless have their own tiered levels. There's those that have some mental health issue that they're dealing with, that are homeless through whatever their circumstances are. But then there's those that can no longer afford a place to live, so they're working homeless. They work every day, and maybe they're living in their car, or maybe they're living in an encampment out in the woods. And they're here. And then at the other end of the spectrum, as I pointed out, are $1 million hoarders, people who have a great pension and they're able to feed themselves, but they're no longer able to take care of themselves, and they're living in mansions. It was one of the most extreme hoarding situations that I had seen, and we were trying to help him to get that resolved and make sure that he has also a lot of medical problems, and so we were trying to make sure that he had all the medical support that he needed as well. The hurdle that we dealt with is that he's a very proud man. He's had some great achievements in his life, and somehow they don't run parallel to how he's actually having to live where he's living. So how we supported him was to get in there and try to help him clean the place up, show that we were willing to get our hands dirty, to get in the foxhole, for lack of a better word. And I think
so you actually helped him clean up?
Yes. So, and it wasn't that we're a cleaning service. The idea was to say, hey, we're here with you. And to build that trust. He didn't lose his identity. He didn't lose the things that were most important to him, and he's not on the street, as an eviction. He's an octogenarian, and so we wouldn't want to see him out on the street.
Yeah.
He wouldn't last long.
So it seems like it takes a special skill set to be in community paramedicine. What are some of those soft skills that you have to be in this field?
I'd say the number one is listening. It's especially important to keep that top of mind because we're so used to fixing things. Again, treat them and leave them. We run in, we see the problem. Oh, I got this. We can fix that, and that's just not who we interact with as a community paramedicine. It takes building trust. It takes listening, and really finding out what's important to them and what it will take to navigate them to a better place.
What would you want the citizens of Alpharetta to know about the senior population that really we may not even be aware of, who are homebound, who really don't have anybody? What's important to understand about them?
Two things come to mind. One is that that everybody is a real person with a real history and need to be treated in that way or considered in that way. And the second is that we all are aging, and it's something to consider that for not only for ourselves, but for others. If we make it better for them, we're making it better for us as well as we approach those same ages and those same obstacles. I would say that denial is a bigger obstacle than dementia, and that has us to wait too long to set up our situation or to get the proper assistance that we need so that we can age in place longer, so that we can age in place well. So,
If you were to write a book, what would the title of that book be?
Everybody needs a champion. But the power of vulnerability, humility, listening, I think respect, giving everyone the opportunity to feel valued goes so much further and resolves so many more issues than most people would know.
It's true. And I think of firefighters, police officers, they're high T guys that are, run toward the fire. I mean, you have to have some of that in your DNA.
Yep.
But you complement it with the listening and the vulnerability, and
there's a time to turn it on and a time to turn it off, or at least hold it back. Some of my most beneficial times, scary for me because I knew that it could cost me my job, was to just sit, listen, and pray with that individual because they were in a crisis. And that's not in anybody's EMS manual, but I knew it's what they needed at the time.
At Uncommon Philanthropists, we talk a lot about the power of giving and serving, and it sounds like in your role as a community paramedic, you're doing just that. You're able to serve our neighbors in need on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
And it's not at like a crisis point, which is how you usually serve being a paramedic, but it's just humanity serving people in minor need.
Absolutely.
But a need is a need.
A need is a need. And if we get ahead of it, then that catastrophic breakdown never needs to happen.
Do you find that your clients gain strength over time? And if so, in what ways long term?
I would say that they do gain strength over time. One of the keys to being the most powerful person in the room, but not the most important, is knowing when to pull back, knowing when to allow them to feel their sense of strength for themselves. If we get in there and fix everything for them, we've only created a more dependent individual. When we have the opportunity to get family involved, we do exactly that. If I can share a story with you.
Absolutely.
There was a lady that she was a pharmacist, and so she had a great pension. She had lived a great life, 3 kids, and one of the children died, and that sort of wrecked the family. And the family sort of split apart, but left her. She was having dementia, and then kind of left her by herself. The short of it is that she was in an untenable housing situation. There was just mold and animal feces, and the house structurally was breaking down. And when we were able to come in and take our time and to deal with what she really was in need of, we were able to bring the family back in. Sometimes people in the family are just so overwhelmed, they just walk away. And when we came alongside and was helping to resolve the problems that were related to her issues, they saw an opportunity where they could re-engage. And so that was huge. And they needed a ramp to be able to get in and out of the home in a more careful way. So we involved Mobility Plus. What we found with them was they came in and did the same kind of assessment. What do we really need to resolve this? And they were very generous. They created a ramp that went that had them to exit through the garage, but it completely mitigated the falls. That took the burden off of 911. It took the burden off of them, and they were so appreciative. And Mobility was able to make it affordable for them, and so that was incredible. Can I share one more with you?
Absolutely.
There was a gentleman that weighed 500 pounds. He and his mother lived in an apartment, and he was sleeping on a twin-size bed, and he had fallen between the bed and the wall. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and his mom just happened to be going by, and the space was so narrow he couldn't holler out. He couldn't get a good breath to holler out, and his mom heard him in there, calling for help at a bare whisper. And so she got involved and got 911 out there, and they got a couple crews out there, sent him to the hospital. Again, Mobility Plus had a bariatric bed that someone had donated to them, and they donated that along with the bariatric mattress to him, so that when he got out of the hospital, he didn't have to go back to those same kind of circumstances.
I appreciate everything you guys done. Really proud of this baby.
And paramedics too. I really appreciate them helping.
Yeah, especially the paramedics. You about that?
It took a while.
I appreciate it, because ain't no way I'd have got out of there on my own.
It is gaining so much momentum. And again, as we talked earlier, it is unique to that municipality. So we have one in Alpharetta, but there's another one in Milton. So it is not a statewide thing. It's usually a city
Highly
or a county.
customized. For sure. And I'm sure our program would look very different than one like in Metro Atlanta.
Yes. The one in Metro Atlanta is run by Grady. But there was a family whose family is 6. Their home burnt down completely. It was a complete loss. And as a community paramedic, the most significant thing that they needed at that moment was they needed someone to be there and with them. Our fire marshal's office was incredible at helping them get a lot of things resolved. And then after they had finished, we followed up with them to make sure that they had the residents that they needed, the emergency residents that they needed. They honestly didn't need us that much because there was so much community support, but it did mean so much to them to know that they had a resource that they could reach out to if they didn't know what to do. And I know that they were overwhelmed. So sometimes, you know, when things are going well, yeah, we can figure it out. But when we're overwhelmed, knowing the next thing to do, sometimes you just need a calm, cool head to talk to.
For sure.
The city pays for the community paramedicine program and anything to do with that. But as far as what we do for the community, that's just the goodness of the vendors, or maybe we're able to find charities like Senior Services North Fulton, or North Fulton Community Charities, or whoever that is able to provide additional funding.
Well, call on Rotary too. You have a lot of.
Call on Rotary.
You ever envision a future where community volunteers might be able to get involved?
100%, sooner than later. I love the idea of community volunteers getting involved, and we have sampled different ways in which they could, like donating food and some of the things that we see people just would not want to see. But there's a whole nother dimensions. There is research, there's investigation. It's finding out what charities exist. It's finding out there are so many different, I don't want to use the word charities, but so many different services and that are available for people that we just don't know about. We had a young lady, she's 26, but she was hearing impaired, and wanted to make sure she was awakened so that her family wouldn't be caught in the fire. So we found out that Red Cross has a program that gave her a bed shaker. It has a special audible, get out, and then also strobe lights. And so we were able to get that. Red Cross paid for it, we mounted it. And we just didn't know about it, is the point that I was getting at, is that there are so many things out there that we just don't know about. And so having volunteers, our reach would be so much further.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions on how everyday people can engage with homebound seniors? Because I see that being a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
These people are just in their houses alone day after day after day. Is there anything that everyday people can do to maybe help that?
A sentence I'd say, be interested. I do get that people don't want, or they're challenged by people that they think are nosy because they think they'll lose something. But a smile, a listening ear can go a long way. And then when you're invited in to know them further, then, get them referred to resources that can help them. But on an everyday basis, it's just be interested in what's going on next door to you or around you.
Well, and we live in the South, and it's common to bring a dish or something when somebody moves in. That would probably be a good way to break the ice with a neighbor that you don't know.
Absolutely.
Just bring over a plate of cookies and just say, I hope you have a nice day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
That's easy. So what's next for my watch?
Awareness. We have three tenets that we try to uphold. One is to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves, to facilitate, find those community partners, volunteers that can help serve the needs of those that we have in the community. And then the third one is to celebrate, or to find a way to bring more awareness of the different needs that exist within our community. The people of Alpharetta, I find, are extremely generous in terms of wanting to be involved. And I'd love to be able to create a pathway for them to do that, so that we're more community.
That's awesome. Well, in wrapping things up, my tag for Uncommon Philanthropist is let go. So I ask all my guests to give me a rousing let go, however you would say that. And then if you could unpack what that means to you.
Okay. Let go!
That's a good one.
So, in unpacking that, I have two questions that I always ask. What am I willing to be responsible for, and what am I willing to let go of? And what letting go of usually involves what is serving myself that I need to let go of? What is no longer serving myself that I need to let go of so that I can be of service to others? There is power in serving others. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And there's power in letting go too.
There's power in letting go. Oh my gosh. Freedom.
Thank you so much for your time and for the ride along and for what you do for the people of our community.
Thank
it's
you.
Really tremendous. So if somebody hears this and they don't live in awesome Alpharetta, how can they find out more about community paramedics and possibly present the idea to their local?
So there's the internet, of course. I am more than happy to, you can go to the Alpharetta, City of Alpharetta website, look up My Watch Alpharetta, and I'm always available to share anything I know and how it can make it relevant for their community.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.